Hi and welcome. In this video I will try to show how to install the air filter in a Yamaha Fazer, the old FZS 600, and shout and cheers to all the good folks at the fuckyou.co.uk forum. That is the best place if you own a Yamaha Fazer and have some problems, need advice, or wish to do things on your own. I will abuse this video to also talk a bit about vehicle mechanics in general, what to look out for, and so it will be more of a general video. I haven't got a cameraman, I cannot see what's in the shot, so the video as far as the procedure goes will probably be far from perfect. My apologies for that. But I will put emphasis on the other stuff as a first video in a series if I do any more of those. So let's try it. So if you need to assemble it, you will just do it in the other way around, so play it in reverse. But the first thing is, when I removed different things from my motorcycle, I put the bolts that keep them in place to be in the part. And I also have these, for example, covers the right and left hand side, and I can put them on different sides in the workshop so that I don't forget which is which, which. So that's one thing. Also, what I did is here, I'm not sure if camera can see, but the bolt that holds the fuel tank in place is gently screwed in by hand here to be in place, and the same goes for this bolt, because I wanted to avoid not remembering how to put it back. Putting things back in the way they were without any extra parts left, that is the tricky part very often, at least in my experience. So I did the same with the fuel filter bolts, and those are the first that I will remove here to insert my fuel filter and to close its cover, because that was the last thing that I could do when I was disassembling it, and here it will be the first thing that I do. So here is the filter, and I will just put it in place nice and gently. Make sure it's sitting there nicely aligned, and now I can put the air filter cover. This one has this rubber seal that's not in a perfect condition. This motorcycle has 30 years. Here is some silicone oil, silicone grease that is good for rubbers generally, and that's what I will abuse in this case. I should probably get a new dead seal and maybe even try to glue this one, but in this case I will just wipe this clean. Okay, it's good. Now I will put some silicone grease there. The silicone grease in and of itself is not a problem, not in the least. The problem is that this thing doesn't now get closed all the way around. There is a small gap, so that is not ideal. I will just make sure that it's there all the way. Here you can see the gap, hopefully. It's almost half a centimeter. Not perfect. Do not try this at home. Okay, now let's try to wipe off any excess. And now let's see if it stays in place. Yes, it does. So that looks all good, and now I can put it back in the way it was. Okay, Slavic engineering at its finest. All right, it's back in place. Now I need to just put the bolts back in. It's a Japanese motorcycle, so I am using JIS screwdriver. I have a video and an article explaining the difference between Phillips and JIS, and for some reason most bicycle and motorcycle and Japanese car mechanics do not have JS screwdrivers, and it's always painful to watch them working the stuck cross-headed bolts on Japanese things. They always make damage and make problems for themselves and for the customers down the road, and that's life. Making sure it's all tight but not too tight, so half a and that's about it. Now I would like to replace this cover, getting the hose out of the way, That's a nice pun, and I need to get this through. Back into place. Now for this part I need to knock it in, but if you have problems with things sticking, especially rubber parts, you can use a thing like this, the glass cleaner. I've seen mechanics use WD-40, but this works okay. It evaporates, doesn't leave any lubricant afterwards, and it lets you work. So zero chance of damaging any rubbers or similar. Okay, now I will need to put the covers back in place. I did manage to get them mixed up. So that's what I was talking about in the start of the video. So this is how it goes. Starting with my hand, just not going too tightly. Now I can tighten them a bit more. Okay, that's one, and we also have this cover that goes here. This one has a slot for the lock, so it's easy to, and this is what I was talking about, when you need to press this into place. If you have any problems not going easily, this works wonderfully, so no need to force anything, just here, and they also need to slide here as well, so adding some of that magic. Now it should go smoothly. That's great. Popped into place. Now to screw it in, making sure the hole is aligned, starting easily. I don't use a torque wrench for this, as you can see. If I had to give advice, I would say to always use a torque wrench, but I would be lying if I said that I always use a torque wrench. It's nothing special. It's just a matter of the perceived risk, so the perceived amount of risk, and your perceived skill, how much you assess your skill, and you can get the torque wrong even if you have a lot of experience and everything. And this is definitely how to not do it. I put this where I can see everything, catch most in the camera, but it's definitely not going to help me work. So I will leave the other two sides of these covers for the time being, but the procedure is exactly the same, just in the mirror. So a great way to show how not to do stuff. This is my improvisation, a wooden plank with some old bicycle tubes. It has its use. It's not how the factory says to do it. Now, since I had to also remove the fuel tank, it helps if it's not full. There are tools and ways to empty a full fuel tank, and that's perhaps for a separate video, but hopefully you can do it by riding. So now I'm removing these placeholder bolts that I put there just to not lose them and to not forget where they go. First the rear part, aligning it, now putting this down. Okay, so now I will first start with this rear bolt. It needs to get through a hole, so I need to move this a bit to make sure it's all aligned, and now I should be able to get it without cross-threading. Alright, so It's in place. I didn't tighten it. I will make sure it's loose. All right, now pulling this up, and this is held between this and the triangle on the frame. Not by the book, not something that I would say go and do this at your home, but this is how I do it. So I've tightened this further now, and I want to attach the cables and hoses. I have this cable that is connected here, and I'm not sure if camera can catch that one, but there's only one place to slot it. It's asymmetrical and has this little thingy. So that one goes first, and it has this cover that was moved out of place. This motorcycle has seen things you people wouldn't believe. It's seen a lot of Slavic engineering over the years, so it's definitely not in mint condition, but it works. It doesn't want to die. Okay, now I need to put the hose of fuel hose onto the fuel clamp. That's down here, so I will just use some of that spray if I have to, if it doesn't want to slide by hand, but it wants. Okay, now I've reached the point where I need to use some pliers to keep it disengaged and be able to move it. And here it is. Okay, now that's settled. The thing that one can easily forget, especially me, is to turn on the fuel. I need to put this fuel from off to on. When I'm disassembling it, I do it in the opposite direction. So that's the thing to do. So let's loosen this thing a bit, make it slide more easily, and gently put this into place. This is a good way to scratch things when you hold the tool and do something. So I should put this away somewhere, and I usually have a tray to put things away on it. Never use your tools with your hands when you're handling some parts and things. I hope you understand what I mean. Now we have a 10mm socket to put there, and again it's the same situation. I want to start it by hand, so I will need to put this away and then slide this over the hole. Try to align this, get it going by a few turns. Okay, it's going smoothly. It's not, but it is going. It's not out of the threads, so that's good. Now I can use the tool. This is a neat tool. I have a video discussing this one. It's my go-to socket wrench, ratchet wrench, whatever you call it. And in this case, there's not too much torque that you want to apply here. I'm not sure. I would have to Google Yamaha specifications for the torque, but it's regardless of how much torque, how many torque wrenches you use and everything, if you haven't got any, how do I say, awareness when you are using a vehicle to see is something rattling, is something off, that can be problematic. It's better for me, or less bad, to not use a torque wrench, but to pay attention to what I'm doing and if there's anything wrong with the engine or anything else. So now we would need to put the saddle back, and of course I will do the other side, but not on camera, for better or for worse. So with the Yamaha Fazer it's in the reverse, so the rear end goes first, and then you just put it in place and lock it. To unlock it, you put the key in, keep it tight, and then as you're keeping it engaged on a spring, you remove this front part and take the saddle out. So that's the whole video. I hope you found this at least a bit, how do I say, like a stand-up comedy. And I hope it helps at least someone. So cheers, I'll see you in some other video, hopefully with a volunteer with a camera. Stay cool.